Oh, there it goes. Hi, Year 4. This chapter is called Off to the Fair. Look at that. I think it's supposed to be a giant inflatable balloon of a pig like Wilbur. Oh, fantastic. The night before the county fair, everybody went to bed early. Fern and Avery were in bed by 8 o'clock. Avery lay dreaming that the Ferris wheel had stopped and that he was in the top car. Fern lay dreaming that she was getting sick in the swings. Lurvy was in bed by 8:30. He was dreaming that he was throwing baseballs at a cloth cat and winning a genuine Navajo blanket. Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman were in bed by 9. Mrs. Zuckerman lay dreaming about a deep freeze unit. Mr. Zuckerman lay dreaming about Wilbur. He dreamt that Wilbur had grown until he was 116 feet long and 92 feet high, and that he'd won all the prizes at the fair and was covered in blue ribbons. Ah, that's what it is. It's Mr. Zuckerman's dream. And even had a blue ribbon tied to the end of his tail. Down in the barn cellar, the animals too went to sleep early, except for Charlotte. Tomorrow would be fair day. Every creature planned to get up early and see Wilbur off on his great adventure. When the morning came, everybody got up at daylight. The day was hot. Up the road at the Arable's house, Fern lugged a pail of hot water to her room and took a bath. Then she put on her prettiest dress because she knew she would see boys at the fair. Mrs. Arable scrubbed the back of Avery's neck, wet his hair, parted it down the middle, and brushed it until it stuck to the top of his head, all but about 6 hairs that stood straight up. Avery put on clean underwear, clean blue jeans, and a clean shirt. Mr. Arable dressed, ate breakfast, and then went out to polish his truck. He had offered to drive everybody to the fair, including Wilbur. Bright and early, Lurvy put clean straw in Wilbur's crate and lifted it into the pig pen. The crate was green, and in gold letters it said, Zuckerman's famous pig. Charlotte had her web looking fine for the occasion. Wilbur ate his breakfast slowly. He tried to look radiant without getting food in his ears. In the kitchen, Mrs. Zuckerman suddenly made an announcement. Homer, she said to her husband, I'm going to give that pig a buttermilk bath. A what? Said Mr. Zuckerman. A buttermilk bath. My grandmother used to bathe her pig with buttermilk when it got dirty. I just remembered. Wilbur's not dirty, said Mr. Zuckerman proudly. He's filthy behind the ears, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Every time Lurvy gives him food, the food runs down around his ears, and it dries and forms a crust. He also has a smudge on one side where he lays in the manure. He lays in clean straw, corrected Mr. Zuckerman. Well, he's dirty, and I'm gonna give him a bath. Mr. Zuckerman sat down weakly and ate a donut. His wife went to the woodshed. When she returned, she wore rubber boots and an old raincoat and carried a bucket of buttermilk and a small wooden paddle. Edith, you're crazy, mumbled Mr. Zuckerman. But she paid no attention to him. Together they walked to the pig pen. Mrs. Zuckerman wasted no time. She climbed in with Wilbur and went to work. Dipping her paddle in buttermilk, she rubbed him all over. The geese gathered to see the fun, and so did the sheep and the lambs. Even Templeton poked his head out cautiously to watch Wilbur get a buttermilk. I have decided to go with Wilbur. He icicles, partially gnawed ice cream cones, and hide ourselves. The rat didn't hide. Fern and Arable were standing in the body of the want to be stepped on, kicked in the face, pummeled or lowered to the tailgate. The geese cheered. Mrs. Arable got out of the truck. Fern and Avery jumped to the ground. Mrs. Zuckerman came walking down from the house. Everybody lined up at the fence and stood for a moment admiring Wilbur and the beautiful green crate. Nobody realized that the crate already contained a rat and a spider. "That's some pig," said Mrs. Arable. "He's terrific," said Lurvy. "He's very radiant," said Fern, remembering the day he was born. "Well," said Mrs. Zuckerman, "he's clean anyways." The buttermilk certainly helped. Mr. Arable studied Wilbur carefully. "He is a wonderful pig," he said. "It's hard to believe he was the runt of the litter. You'll get some extra good ham and bacon, Homer, when it comes time to kill that pig." Wilbur heard the words and his heart almost stopped. "I think I'm going to faint," he said to the old sheep, who was watching. "Kneel down," whispered the old sheep. "Let the blood rush to your head." Wilbur sank to his knees, all the radiance gone, and his eyes closed. "Look!" screamed Fern. "He's fading away." "Hey, watch me!" yelled Avery, crawling on all fours into the crate. "I'm a pig! I'm a pig!" Avery's foot touched Templeton under the straw. "What a mess," thought the rat. "What fantastic creatures boys are. Why did I let myself in for this?" The geese saw Avery in the crate and cheered. "Avery, you get out of that crate this instant," commanded his mother. "What do you think you are?" "I'm a pig," cried Avery, tossing handfuls of straw into the air. "Oink, oink, oink." "The truck is rolling away, Papa," said Fern. The truck, with no one at the wheel, had started to roll down the hill. Mr. Arable dashed into the driver's seat and pulled the brake. The truck stopped. The geese cheered. Charlotte crouched and made herself as small as possible in the knothole so Avery wouldn't see her. "You come out of that crate at once," cried Mrs. Arable. Avery crawled out of the crate on his hands and knees, making faces at Wilbur. Wilbur fainted. "The pig's passed out," cried Mrs. Zuckerman. Throw water on him. Throw buttermilk, suggested Avery. The geese cheered. Lurvy ran for a pail of water. Fern climbed into the pen and knelt by Wilbur's side. It's sunstroke, said Mr. Zuckerman. The heat's too much for him. Maybe he's dead, said Avery. Come out of that pig pen immediately, cried Mrs. Arable. Avery obeyed his mother and climbed into the back of the truck so he could see better. Lurvy returned with cold water and dashed it on Wilbur. Throw some on me, cried Avery. I'm hot too. Oh, quiet, hollered Fern. Keep quiet. Her eyes were brimming with tears. Wilbur, feeling the cold water, came to. He rose slowly to his feet while the geese cheered. He's up, said Mr. Arable. I guess there's nothing wrong with him. I'm hungry, said Avery. I want a candied apple. Wilbur's all right now, said Fern. We can start. I want to take a ride on the Ferris wheel. Mr. Zuckerman, Mr. Arable, and Lurvy grabbed the pig and pushed him headfirst into the crate. Wilbur began to struggle. The harder the men pushed, the harder he held back. Avery jumped down and joined the men. Wilbur kicked and thrashed and grunted. Nothing's wrong with this pig, said Mr. Zuckerman cheerfully, pressing his knee against Wilbur's behind. All together now, boys. Shove. With a final heave, they jammed him into the crate. The geese cheered. Lurvy nailed the boards across the end so that Wilbur couldn't get out. And then, using all their strength, the men picked up the crate and heaved it aboard the truck. They didn't know that under the straw was a rat, and inside of a knothole was a big gray spider. They only saw the pig. Everybody in, called Mr. Arable. He started the motor. The ladies climbed in beside him. Mr. Zuckerman and Fern and Lurvy and Avery rode in the back. The truck began to move ahead. The geese cheered, the children answered, and everybody went away to the fair. That was a very long chapter. I wonder what's going to happen now. I shall see you tomorrow.